This is Chapter 1 of my book, The Saga of Elliot Kraus. Book 1, The Search for the Fallen Stars. Chapter 1, Unfortunate Introductions. Elliot's gaze shifts from outside the train's window to the weather documents resting on his lap. He leans back in his seat, pushing aside a loose section of his unruly brown hair that has fallen over his eyes. Shifting through the papers, Elliot takes his time refreshing his memory of the instructions his grandfather left behind after his sudden disappearance. The instructions seemed pretty straightforward. Head to Camelot and ask Merlin to gain access to something called the Grand Archives, but knowing his grandfather, this was going to be far from straightforward. As the train slows to a halt, Elliot slides them back into an old manila envelope and slips it into the side pocket of his jacket alongside his glasses. As Elliot steps into the platform, a group of children in a rush bump into him. Absent-minded, his foot catches the small gap between the train and the terminal. The envelope and curved axe handle fly from his jacket as he catches himself on the train door. Cursing under his breath, he retrieves the envelope off the ground. He partially unzips his jacket to fix his red, half-popped collared shirt underneath and stashes the envelope back into his inner jacket pocket. While dusting off his blue jeans, he pats on his side to find his wooden handle is missing. Looking around, Elliot spots one of the kids from earlier running up to him with the handle. "Thanks, kid," Elliot says, clipping the handle to his belt. As the kid runs back to their friends, a ding echoes across the intercoms dotted along the station walls. The sound catches his attention as a woman's voice comes over the PA system. "Welcome to Pendragon Station, located in the European Guild headquarters, Camelot. Feel free to ask guild members any questions you may have about the city. You can identify them by the Camelot insignia of a white dragon on their uniform. As always, thank you for using United Guilds Railway, and enjoy your stay in Camelot." Elliot exits the station up a flight of nearby stairs and takes a second to look around. He scans the nearby area until he spots an information kiosk. Tapping on the screen, he navigates through it until a map to the guild headquarters building appears. Elliot takes out his phone and taps the kiosk, transferring the map to his phone. Turning around on his heels while he stares at his phone, a blue line appears on the map that charts a path towards his destination. Elliot's gaze remains plastered to his phone, taking occasional glances up to make sure he doesn't run into anyone. Upon coming up to a crosswalk, he glances upwards at the various architectural designs of the nearby buildings. Concrete rectangular giants uniformly stacked to one another on each side of the road, every other one tall enough to reach the sky, with the tallest reflecting the sun off their thousands of glass eyes. Most are adorned with a logo, discerning if it is a hotel or business. Contrasting with these gray, cookie-cutter structures are brick commercial buildings that sit on the opposite side of the road, dressed in neon signs, colorful and uniquely designed awnings, and other identifying paraphernalia like mascots, logos, slogans, and signs that give each building its own personality. Some are made of standard concrete, while others are made of brick or even wood. The locals' chatter revolves from a garbled choir of voices to concentrated pockets of more discernible topics the deeper the city Elliot travels into. Local guild members boasting about being appraised on their classes or learning a new magic spell. Ugh, fucking newbie magic users. I bet half of them are just using their magic to impress their friends. None of them know how dangerous it can really be. Elliot curses in his head. Pushing that thought aside, he arrives 10 minutes later outside a large alabaster buildings with twin stone dragons standing on pedestals outside the front. A large holographic sign flashes the words Guild Headquarters on the front of the building. He walks in and finds himself amidst a bustling atrium. Several guild members walk and run about the building like schools of fish in the ocean. Alabaster staircases branch out from the center of the building to the multiple floors above, as if they were bleached vines trying to reach the sunlight above. Stepping off to the side to gather his bearings, Elliot pinches the screen to zoom into the map to find the receptionist's desk. After swiping the screen a few times, he locates the correct desk tucked away in the corner of the building. The receptionist, a 20-something-year-old with a scruffy beard and a bright smile, looks up from his computer and greets Elliot. "Hello there. I assume that you are here to apply for the membership to the Camelot Guild, right?" Elliot puts up a finger, asking the receptionist to wait just a second, and rummages through his jacket. "Actually, I was told to come here and give the admissions people these documents to talk to Merlin. The papers explain everything." The receptionist sets the envelope on his desk and glances back up at Elliot. "Before I forget, can I get your name, sir?" He leans towards the receptionist. "It's Elliot Kraus." The receptionist nods, opening the envelope and rifling through its contents. He sits up straight and examines the documents further. Elliot stiffens, the receptionist continuing to pour through the papers with a furrowed brow and squinted eyes. The receptionist types rapidly with one hand while flipping through the documents with the other, completely immersing himself in Lou's work. Elliot leans against a nearby pillar and taps on the wooden handle at his side. He stares blankly into the space with his thoughts equally as empty in an attempt to pass the time. The receptionist hands the envelope back to Elliot, which snaps him back to reality. "Unfortunately, the paperwork you brought in is over a decade old, and policies have changed regarding appointments with high-ranking guild officials, they say. Due to this, I must ask that you either leave or attend orientation for the new guild members for a chance to meet with Grandmaster Merlin." Elliot sighs as his hand falls on the desk. "What do you mean? The papers say I can meet him when I arrive at Camelot, so why can't I talk to Merlin?" The receptionist frowns. "Guild policy, I'm afraid. A few years ago, you had too many deranged fans faking old documents to meet with the members of the Round Table. The king ordered that documents over a decade old to be considered invalid. As a result, I cannot let you see Grandmaster Merlin." Elliot curses under his breath. "I'm gonna break that old man's neck for leaving me to clean up his mess." The receptionist's eyebrows raise, and he freezes in his chair. "Break whose neck?" Elliot turns away and waves dismissively at him. "Nothing. Thanks, though." He takes his leave and follows all the signs directing him to where the guild is holding their open admissions. If there is a place he can spot Merlin in the wild, he figures it is there. Eventually, the signs take him to a large and rather long hallway, decorated with numerous glass display cases. Each case resides in a sturdy yet decorative mahogany base. Some pedestals have an extra layer of ornate designs, made with precious metals that are tailored to the contents within. Some hold an artist's depiction of major battles that were fought in recent times, while others hold an artifact related to their respective battle. He ignores most of them until one catches his eye. Inside, a mural with a gold nameplate. First Battle of the New World. An artist's depiction of King Arthur, dressed in red and silver armor, leading a charge against an army of demons and the undead. A regiment of soldiers dressed in white and gold armor follow the king against a flood of decaying corpses and horrid nightmares donning jagged black armor. A section of his hair falls out from his hood and lands across his eyes. Brushing the hair away, he catches his reflection in the glass. Hazel eyes, permanently frozen in a piercing gaze, stare back at him. Another curse he has no real control over. Should probably get a haircut soon. can do that later, he says to himself. At the exam hall, which turns out to be a converted gymnasium, rows of occupied chairs face the wall with a projector shining on it. The person on the screen looks familiar to Elliot, but he quickly shakes his head and searches for a seat. He lucks out, spots an end seat near the middle row, and snatches it up before someone else can claim it. Finding there is still some time before the orientation starts, he pulls out his phone and browses the local job board for some side money. Elliot doesn't get far into his job search before a woman at the front calls for silence. He tilts his head up enough to see a video coming from the projector and his phone in his peripherals. On the screen is a man dressed in a suit that clears his throat and begins a speech. Welcome, candidates from across the globe. I am King Arthur Pendragon, leader of the European Guild and king of the 7 continent guilds. You are here today in Camelot to take an entrance exam to help identify your latent abilities. You will be assigned roles within the guild via appraisal to find out how you can be best of service against the never-ending war, against monsters, demons, and the tainted, beings twisted by dark gods who do their bidding. If you are found to be talented in the ways of magic, then... Elliot ignores the rest of this speech, as it is information he already knows. After a while, he catches the king giving a thumbs up and a cheesy smile, causing him to just roll his eyes in response. A female official clears her throat, and Elliot cannot see her face as it is shrouded beneath her light blue robes. My name is Ella, she says into a microphone. I am one of the mage coordinators who run orientation here in Camelot. Now is the time for any questions you may have for us before we continue with the practical part of the exam. Some applicants begin to rattle off question after question. How accurate are appraisals? Can people transfer to another guild at another date? What is the starting pay rate? How dangerous of missions will initiates take part in? And some personal questions regarding Ella that are immediately shut down. As everyone continues to ask their questions, the other applicants' idle chatter starts to echo against the gymnasium's immense walls and glossy vinyl floors. The concentrated, unfocused, roaring chatter brings Elliot to drop his head and pull his hood over his eyes. He closes his eyes and pushes his hands against the side of his hood, shoveling hair into his ears to help with the noise. A fiery irritability rises from his core as the instinct to get away or silence the crowd himself fills his mind. As the crowd reaches its fever pitch, a male voice bellows, "Silence." The crowd falls silent. Elliot silently thanks the man who shouted and leans back up in his seat. Scanning the area, he figures the voice came from a man wearing a suit of high-tech metal armor standing next to Ella. Ella nods at the armored man and motions towards the crowd. Thank you, Gawain. Now, if you have any more questions, please raise your hand and wait to be called on. The crowd remains silent as a few more people raise their hands one by one. After he waits for a few questions to be answered, Elliot puts his hand up and Gawain points him out. What is your question, recruit? Elliot rises from his seat. Yeah, I needed to talk to Merlin. Only reason I'm forcing myself to sit through all this gratuitous bullshit. The crowd either laughs or eyes him with disappointment. Nearby, someone clears their throat and stands up. The person, a man dressed in an expensive-looking pair of slacks and a button-up shirt, with a gold watch embedded with several jewels, points at Elliot. I am more concerned about the lowering standards of this guild. I mean, what kind of prestigious, well-known organization just lets common Yankee hooligans in at the front gate? Elliot leans back, jams his hand to his pockets, and sneers at the guy. Yeah, I lived there for a bit. What's that got to do with anything, you flavorless fuck? Rich guy flicks his hand towards Elliot. It is people like you that bring down the social status of a guild like Camelot's. The rude attitude, the scowl on your face, the unruly hair, your outfit. Not to mention that useless handle you have strapped to your belt. What part of you doesn't scream Yankee hooligan? Elliot stands up and glares at the guy while swiping his hood off his head. Do you want me to beat your ass into a pulp? It sounds like you do. Before Elliot can go any further, though, he senses an influx of magic beneath his feet and jumps away from his seat at the last second, while Rich Guy is swallowed up by a portal. The portal snaps shut a second later, dissipating into a wisp of blue energy. Elliot scoffs at Rich Guy disappearing and removes his hand from the handle at his side, giving a brief nod to Ella. Thanks. Saved me the trouble of actually fighting him. I would rather a fight not break out in such a crowded area, Ella replies. As for your question, it's fine, Elliot says. I'll just go look in the training grounds in the back to see if he's there. Elliot makes it to the end of the seating arrangement when Gawain steps out in front. Elliot growls and tries to walk around Gawain, but he is stopped at every attempt. The two become locked in a staring contest at one another. The slits in Gawain's helmet make his blue eyes dull in comparison to Elliot's piercing hazel eyes. The knight does not move out of Elliot's way. Elliot knocks on Gawain's armor and whistles. Fancy mech suit you have there. It's even got the oversized green sash, too. Can you move? Please? The knight crosses his arms and fumes. The metal clashing on metal causes the sword on his side to rattle. My name is Sir Gawain, of the Holy Knights of King Arthur's Round Table. Yeah, I figured that out from the green sash and the big fucking axe you have on your back, Elliot says in a bored tone. Have you no respect for those who put their life on the line, battling monsters and the like to protect the people? Elliot shrugs while throwing his hands up. Not exactly ungrateful for what the guilds do when it comes to fighting the dangerous monsters of the world. I just don't have to rely on you guys for when shit really hits the fan. Gawain lets out a humph. Be that as it may, I am sure that there was a legitimate reason for why you were not permitted to meet with Grandmaster Merlin. Elliot lets out an annoyed grunt while pulling out one of the papers, one showing the official seal of Merlin, before motioning to the rest of the crowd. Deal with them first. I can wait a little bit longer to have someone close to Merlin verify the papers. I'll be outside. Gawain's eyes go wide at seeing the seal. He nods and stands to the side, allowing Elliot to pass. As Elliot makes it outside, he glances around to see if Merlin is nearby. It is a vast area covered in grass and sand. Several obstacle courses, training dummies, and group exercises litter the area in concentrated groups. Elliot catches various guild members looking at him, stunned at what is happening before their eyes. All of them looked like they were practicing their fighting skills and magical abilities with one another, or training dummies. He watches some of them in the middle of casting their advanced magic, while some don't stop mid-swing with their weapons and obliterate the training dummies. He spots many others practicing with melee weapons on other training dummies, or sparring with one another. Some of the guild members are practicing their magic in the same way, although a lot more spread out than the others. No sign of Merlin, though. Elliot gives up his search and sits on a bench under a nearby shaded section of the training grounds. Not having much else to do, he brings up his phone again to look for quick jobs nearby. After what feels like an eternity later, Gawain emerges from the gymnasium and heads towards him, prompting Elliot to put his phone away and take out the manila envelope. I appreciate this, by the way, Elliot says, handing him the envelope. The knight takes the documents out of the envelope and shuffles through them. I have seen this seal enough times to recognize its legitimacy. After a few more read-throughs, Gawain hands back the envelope. These are old, but they are legitimate. However, guild policies dictate that you must put in a request to meet him. As you are still a civilian and not a guild member, it could take weeks, even months. Fuck that, Elliot says. I'm invoking the guild's trial by combat then, for an immediate fast track to a guild trial. Gawain pinches the bridge of his nose and sighs deeply. As a selected official of Camelot's guild, I accept your challenge. I doubt your chances, though. An amused smirk comes across Elliot's face. What? Is Mr. Head Bitch of the Round scared to fight little old me? I am not afraid, says Gawain. I simply believe you are all bark and no bite. The others around them seemed to have caught wind of their conversation, given the ring of people now surrounding the training grounds. Guild members and the set of applicants from before start to cause an uproar, no doubt, because there was a prospect of a fight between Arthurian knights and a random upstart. Gawain raises a fist, which silences the crowd. Gawain then jams a finger towards a random guild member. "Clear the immediate area," he barks at them before turning back to Elliot. "I would like to teach you a lesson for disrespecting our work here." Elliot, even more impatient and angrier than before, stamps his foot, causing it to crack the ground beneath him. "Okay, Boy Scout, how about we cut the niceties and get on with this shit?" Without a second thought, Elliot rushes Gawain and slams into the knight with his shoulder. Gawain is knocked off his balance and flies back several feet, crashing through several rows of training dummies. Elliot looks down to see Gawain is sprawled on a pile of rubble, like a turtle laying on its shell. He finds it somewhat amusing, watching Gawain struggle to get up initially. He may have played dirty in the knight's eyes, but his experiences growing up in the rougher parts of the world taught Elliot to fight using every advantage he could use. Gawain, despite being momentarily dazed from the attack, quickly recovers back to his feet. Disregarding his sword, Gawain wraps a gauntlet around the handle on his back, and magnetic locks release the colossal, emerald-bladed battle axe from its sheath. Elliot frowns. Bertilak was an idiot to leave his axe to you. Metal clicks are heard as Gawain's faceplate splits apart and retracts to the sides, allowing his short, slicked back, black hair to peek out. Such a nobleman's name coming from such an ignoble mouth is a disgrace. Prepare yourself. Mid-stride, the armored fighter grips his weapon in both hands and swings it downward at his opponent. Elliot unclips the wooden handle from his belt and swats the axe away like it was a fly. He then parries with a jab at the knight's breastplate, striking the steel and denting it. Gawain jumps back and examines the damage done to his armor. He traces the indentation with a finger and bells excitedly. "Color me impressed." Elliot brings his handle onto his shoulder. "Not a bad swing yourself. Felt the power behind that sucker. Reminds me of Big Sis when she would, never mind." It is at this point that Elliot realizes if he is going to see Merlin, he will have to bring Gawain to his knees. Elliot then twirls his axe handle in his hand a few times before jabbing at the knight. Gawain jumps away and pivots his body to sidestep the jab, using his momentum to swing his axe at Elliot's waist. Elliot grasps his handle with both hands and delivers a diagonal strike that narrowly blocks the axe's edge. Both fighters come to a standstill, like two bucks vying for dominance, both their weapons pressed against each other in a deadlock. Fuck this," Elliot says while tapping the wooden handle with a finger. Elliot roars and shoves Gawain's axe away as the handle bursts into a blaze of crimson flames. It morphs mid-swing into a flaming, two-handed greatsword shaped like a chef's knife, with a serrated bottom edge. The outer edge is pure white, while the inside is dark ruby, making the blade look like a bloodied, dislodged tooth from a massive beast. Ella, the official from earlier, appears and clasps her hands together before throwing her arms out, summoning a magical barrier that envelops Elliot and Gawain in a dome of shimmering energy, much like his emotions trying desperately to break free. The heat from the blade slams against the barrier, like the tide crashing against a rocky cliff. Elliot leaps into the air with his sword over his head, a stream of ruby flames following behind him. In one swift motion, Elliot swings the blade downwards, then curves it horizontally at the last second. Gawain blocks the attack, and a burst of crimson sparks erupts as the edge of Elliot's sword strikes the axe's metal handle. The force of the blow travels down the knight's armor and into the ground beneath him, shattering it. What the hell? He didn't even budge. That suit reminds me of the Bushido armor Amma's guards use, but way tougher. I guess that's what you get when you're part of the guild with the most funding for its armaments, Elliot comments to himself. Elliot continues his advance, trying to push his sword closer to the knight, while Gawain pushes back with great resistance. Embers drip down from Elliot's sword like drops of molten blood, scorching the earth wherever they touch. He knows the embers won't melt Gawain's armor, yet he smiles when he notices that they leave ashen smudges instead. Gawain twists his body and uses the weight of his axe to shove Elliot's sword to the side. With surprising speed, the knight delivers a strike to Elliot's chest with the pommel of his axe. Elliot is sent staggering backwards from Gawain's strike. He flips his sword in reverse and drives it into the ground to stop himself from falling, but loses his grip and falls anyway. Fuck me, that hurt, Elliot says between coughing up globules of blood. Kinda. This was a lie, however, as Elliot was actually in immense pain. Normally, he would be able to cheat and use his opponent's anger against them, but that could lead to Elliot losing control, something he couldn't afford at this time. The knight's breastplate rises and falls in quick succession. Gawain stands upright with his axe blade buried in the ground and stares at Elliot. I'm surprised. Any other person would have had their sternum cracked and be gasping for air, he thinks before a chime comes from his wrist. Elliot's head perks up as the knight rotates his wrist, and a hologram of a woman crouching appears. This is Gawain. What is the situation? He asks the woman. The sound of an explosion is heard, and holographic debris flies past the woman. Requesting immediate assistance. Some idiots just cut the head off this Hydra, and now the damn thing has 8 heads. It's too dangerous to get close to, and none of us have the firepower to take it down. An 8-headed Hydra should be of no consequence. Gawain starts before he's cut off by the sound of another explosion. It grew toxin and fireheads. We can't get close to the bloody thing without being poisoned or set on fire, the woman shouts. Gawain's brow furrows and nods. Understood. I will head out immediately. Stall as much as you can. The knight plucks his axe up from the ground and magnetizes it to his back before turning to Ella. I request a portal to the YTS to access the gate, Ella. Ella snaps her fingers, and a shimmering blue oval appears beside Gawain. The knight gives a small nod and steps through it. Ella goes to snap her fingers again, when she is stopped by a hand gripping her shoulder. She spins around to see Elliot with a serious look in his eyes. Keep the portal open. I'm going with him, Elliot says. Ella shakes her head in response. Absolutely not. Why should I let you assist him in any way after what you did here? Elliot lets go of her shoulder and spits out another globule of blood. I know I'm in a rush, but I can't stand by when people may die either. By the sound of it, there's no mages or balancers on the scene, and he'll need someone who can use high-tier fire magic to kill that thing. Ella hesitates for a moment. Despite his actions against Gawain, she sees in his face that he is being genuine about helping. With a small gesture of a head pointing towards the portal, Elliot rushes towards it and leaps through it. She snaps her fingers, the blue oval dissipates, and the arena falls silent.